What's up guys, it's Zach here from Homebrew. This is the first video I've made in a while, and it's going to be my first ever sort of grain to glass video as well. I'm not going to kick the arse of it, I'll keep it fairly short. But the beer I brewed for this was actually for the CAMRA Champion Homebrewer of the Year competition, which took place recently. So I brewed a mild, which if you've never had it, is quite a light beer, usually 3 to 4%. Easy drinking but still packed full of flavour. Quite an old style you don't see too much of anymore really. It's becoming a bit more popular with some of the breweries putting out a few milds here and there, but on the whole you don't really see them in pubs, especially not in the UK. It did alright, did this beer in the competition. We got the results recently and it came third in its category with 235s and a 34, which I didn't think was too bad. It was quite a pleasant beer, as I say. It was only 3.2%, really easy drinking. There's a few tweaks I make, but we'll get to that at the end. So what I'll do is I'll take you through the recipe with a bit of footage. We'll go all the way through the fermentation, and then we'll come back when the beer's ready. Well, it is ready, as you well know, but we'll do a quick taste test on it. Right, on to the recipe. I will link the actual recipe into the description, but as you can see the mash temperature is 68 degrees C, just to try and get a bit of extra body in there, because the low alcohol beers are sometimes a touch thin. I'll just give percentages, as you can see. So first up we've got Maris Otter at 73.5%. We've then got Crystal 100 at 9.8%, with Crystal 150 also at 9.8%. There is some Carafa Special 2 in there at 4.1%. And finally, some flaked oats at 2.9%. Just to note, with the roasted grains like the Carafa, I've gone for the special because it's a dehusked version. That means you can add it in at the beginning because there's very little astringency. If you can only get the husked versions, the way around the astringency is just to add the roasted malts towards the end of your mash, say the sort of last 15 minutes. That way you'll still get all of the flavour and everything else you need from it. But without that extra astringency, it's a bit of a risk putting that in right at the beginning. So that's the grain bill. And as you can see from the next footage, it was looking quite good. Nice colour, looking reasonably clear during the mash. I was quite happy with that. Then took some pH readings. The first one, if you can see, that's 5.54, which was a touch high, so I added a little bit of acid in there. Eventually got my pH to 5.35, which I was happy with. On completion of the mash, moved on to the sparge. I just sparge with a jug, just try and keep it fairly even. Letting that water run down through the grain bed until you've used up all your sparge water, really. There's not much more to say on that. And a little tip there, just recirculate your beer through a sieve to pick up any bits you missed as you heat up to the boil. Now onto the boil itself. I put my hop additions up there so you can see them, but it's pretty simple. Just East Kent Goldens at 60 minutes, East Kent Goldens at 5 minutes. I went for an hour-long boil for this one. Once the boil was complete, I chilled everything down to pitching temperature and transferred into my Firmzilla all-rounder. About halfway through the transfer, I added my yeast so that I could saturate it all with the wort. I use Verdant IPA yeast just to give that a go in a beer like this. I then put it to bed. My fermentation schedule was 18 degrees Celsius until it neared completion, at which point I started a 3-day temperature ramp, 1 day at a time up to 21 degrees C. As you can see, the fermentation went fairly quickly on this. It was nearing terminal gravity towards day 3. As such, I started the temperature ramp. Once I was happy it had finished, I cold crashed and packaged. Right, well let's get into the tasting. This was bottle conditioned as it was part of the requirements for the competition. Bit hard to get the colour in there, but it's a dark, almost ruby colour. I'm not going to pretend I'm one of those people who can pick out all sorts of smells and flavours, but it smells nice, malty, ever so slight sort of fruity aroma. The flavour's pretty similar. Definitely really quite nice malty flavour to it. Not a bad beer. It's not hoppy, but it's not meant to be. Yeah, it's not bad at all, that. From the judges' feedback, the main points were it was a little bit thin, which I expected, and it is a little bit thin, but it is only 3.2%, so it's a bit difficult. And the other one was it's a bit dry and bitter on the aftertaste, which I do tend to agree with. So for a 3.2% beer, there's a lot of flavour in that, and it's quite nice. If I was to do it again, I think I'd want to touch more body, so I could adjust the mash temperature up a little bit more, but it was already 68. So what I would probably consider doing is adding slightly more of the oats, or maybe some wheat, something along those lines. Like I say, could increase the mash temperature. And the other thing I'll probably do, because there's a slightly roasted note to it, is maybe use Carafa 1 instead of Carafa 2. However, it's not overly roasty for the style at all, that. But yeah, all in all, not a bad beer. One I'd probably brew again, and at 3.2% you could drink a lot of it. Cheers.